Welcome to Speaking of Money. We are so excited you're here. Together, we're going to increase your financial IQ, we're going to work on your money mindset, and share tactical strategies on how to become not only financially independent, but financially free. You'll learn from me and other top industry leaders, and if you implement, I promise you will absolutely improve your financial life no matter where you begin. Let's do this. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Speaking of Money. It's Jana, and today I wanted to do a little download on what the heck we're doing here with Speaking of Money, what the goals are, and ultimately, I want to tell you guys where we've been, where we are, and where we're headed. I think it's really important when you're tackling financial literacy and financial wellness that you understand the perspective of who you're listening to. We all come from a different place. We all come from a different perspective. And there are many, many thought leaders that really believe a lot of different things. And I think what's really important is to align yourself with advice that makes sense for where you're headed and for what you're hoping to accomplish. So first of all, I want to tell you that this is literally a dream come true for me. I didn't know that podcasting was going to be the platform at the time when I got started with this, but here's what I did know. I did know that I wanted to create a reference. I wanted it to be something like a proverbial notebook that you could just refer back to, flip to the right pages and say, okay, buying homeowners insurance, tick, 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 go right to that little page and it will tell you exactly what to do. Oh, do I need life insurance and how do I shop for it? Go right to it. What kind of retirement plans are available to me and why do I care? All of those things kind of in this book. But then I started thinking, there's a heck of a lot more to financial literacy than just knowing those lessons. That's a big component. Because honestly, as I've said a million times before, no one teaches us that stuff. We learn how to do all kinds of other things, but we never learn how to manage finances and make financial decisions and how to assess that data. No one ever teaches us that, so we never know. So I think really there's four main pillars when we're talking about money. So when we're speaking of money, there's four main things that we are doing. We're talking about making money, and that includes your mind. It includes the way you talk to yourself, how you present yourself to others, your feelings of worth and value, what you're bringing to the table, how to become more valuable. It encompasses a lot of things. So making money. The second thing is managing spending. If you don't know what you're spending and you don't know what your bills are or what you should or want to be spending, then that's not helpful. So you've got to be able to manage spending. You've got to be able to invest money to create alternative streams of income. So it kind of ties back with making money, but also that really ties into creating generational or legacy wealth. And then the fourth is saving money. How much money should we have saved? Not necessarily working for us, but just how we save it, what instruments we use, how we don't overspend on things. All of those things kind of fall in that fourth pillar. So a lot of Speaking of Money is going to be encompassing each pillar, and I'm going to try to organize them for you. So when you want to know something, you know what section to go to in the podcast, and it's an easy find. I hope that this will align with my initial dream of having this reference, this book of how do you do these things? How do you maintain a credit score? How do you get a credit score? All the things that you need to know that really do impact you in your adult life. So the next thing about Speaking of Money that I think is really important to understand is that I'm talking about building wealth. What does that even mean? So you may be starting in a deficit. You may be starting as a wealthy person. You may be starting in the middle, just starting that journey of like, okay, I'm currently living paycheck to paycheck. What are my options? I am here to show you what is possible. And from what is possible, I'm going to show you the next phase, how to get there. And when you begin taking action, what I hope you find in your own circle, in your own ecosystem of friends and family and influence, et cetera, is that you'll get in the right room with the right person who will help you to the next right thing for you. This is not an easy concept to explain or to believe in, especially if you're in some financial trouble. But I can promise you, and I know this because I've been through it, I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people go through it, that no matter where you are, the minute you decide, I want something different, that's when something different starts happening. And it doesn't always feel amazing, right? This doesn't feel like some beautiful gift when you're trying to trudge through the trenches of debt. You don't feel anything great about it in the beginning because you are really having to come face to face with what's in front of you. But as you start taking those steps, as you start making motions towards wherever your destination is, you will find yourself in the presence of your next lesson, of your next opportunity, of your next thing. And I think when you hold on to that fact, if you will, to that truth, you will find that speaking about money and facing money and learning about money becomes a much easier process. I oftentimes wonder that if you look at our generation now, and you think, if only they would have known what we know now, what could have happened? What could have been? And so often, I teach so many classes, everyone says, oh, if only I would have known that when I was 18 or 20 or 25 or earlier. Everyone always wants to have known something earlier. And the truth is, it's really hard to get that information, especially when your influence in your life isn't readily available with that information. So often we look at our parents or our grandparents and we want more than they have. We're clear that we maybe want a better life or a bigger life, a more abundant life, and they're so old fashioned. They're so these, all the things, but yet we go to them for our money advice when we're not happy with their financial outcomes. That is fascinating, no? I think it's particularly interesting because so often people refer to the men in their lives. And as a woman who feels strongly about female equity in finances, especially in one's personal finances, it's an interesting concept to always refer or defer to the male in your life. So for many years, I've done mortgage and, let me talk to my dad. Let me talk to my grandpa. Let me call my uncle. Hey, you know what? Let me get my brother. It's so infrequent that people say, I really want to talk to my mom about this. It's infrequent. And I think this cultural norm that kind of men know and women don't is just, like I said, it's a cultural norm. And so when we ask our dads and we ask our grandparents and we ask our uncles and they are not where we want to be financially, but we're asking them for financial advice, that seems conflicting to me. How about you? Seems super conflicting to me. So what I'm trying to do is to bring on many experts who are professionals in their field that offer many different kinds of perspectives and a lot of knowledge and a lot of information that can hopefully guide you based on where you are to where you want to go. Mapping that out is such an important thing. You may not know yet. Your biggest dream may be, I just want to be out of debt. Or your biggest dream may be, if I could just save enough money to get braces for my kids. But your biggest dream might also be, I want to own 25 investment properties and have that be my retirement, and that's my stream of income. How do I get to that place? There's a lot in between those places as well. And so really getting in the space where you're exposed is super helpful in advancing those dreams. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were speaking about this idea of how when you're learning, when you're living, you have this dream of getting to the top of the mountain. So you hike and you hike and you hike, and you're like, oh gosh, if I could just get to the top. Well, what turns out is the real joy, the real goodness is in the hike, right? You get to the top and you're like, son of a gun, I've got this new perspective, but check it out. I'm not even at the top. I'm only at the top of this. There's still another distance to go. And when you start to do these climbs and you hike and you hike and you hike and you get to the next plateau and the next plateau and the next plateau, what you learn is that all of these experiences on the hike, all of this knowledge that you're acquiring helps you on the next leg and on the next leg. And hopefully, if you're going to learn from me and you're going to learn from my people, what you're going to learn is that when you reach your level that you thought was your top, that you take a breath, you take a minute and you reach your hand back and you grab for someone else. Let me show you the way. I just got here. Let me show you how to get to here. And then as you continue on, hopefully they're reaching their hand back and doing the same. If we are really committed to creating a generation of financially free and financially independent people, then we have to start somewhere. And that is with ourselves. If we want something different than our families have had, if we want to continue and grow legacy wealth, if we want to move forward financially in a way that feels good to us, we have to do something. We have to take action. And in order to do that, we have to know the questions to ask. We have to know the direction we're headed. We have to stay committed to the 4 pillars, making money, managing money, saving money, and investing money. Those are all things we have to be constantly in awareness of. Many people don't pay attention to their finances at all. They're like, I don't know. I mean, I talk to people all day about money, right? Hey, how much do you make? No idea. How much do you have in the bank? I don't know. What about your 401k? How do you invest? I don't know. This is especially true for married women who stay home. They have no idea how much money is coming in, how much money is going out, how money is allocated, what their retirement looks like. They're trusting in somebody who may or may not have the credentials to make these great, huge financial decisions for them, and kind of hoping it's going to work out. And things happen, right? People die and they break up and all kinds of life circumstances get in the way. And if that happens and you never knew where you were and you had never put any measures in place, then what, right? Then you just handed over all of your financial independence and your financial freedom to somebody else. And that is not a guarantee that that's going to work out for you. I don't know about you, but I would rather any day of the week be reliant on myself, dependent on myself, in control of myself and my financial future, because then if it's a total poop storm, that's on me. I'm responsible for that. But I'm also responsible for the process getting me where I need to go. And without knowing that, without having any data points, without having a baseline of where I began and where I want to end up, that's a next to impossible. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't rely on anybody and that we shouldn't lean into anybody and that we can't trust our significant others and all of the things, but we have to be in knowledge of what is going on so that men and women alike, just to be clear, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm bashing on men or anything, because I'm certainly not, but men and women alike need to be aware of what their personal financial situations are and where they're headed on that journey. I think one of the things that is most difficult for me to understand is why we always hand over our power about money to someone else. I hear it all the time. No one ever told me that. No one ever said that to me. I had no idea. Okay, so if that's the case, and you don't have an idea, then that would spark the question, what would I need to do to become financially educated? What would I need to do to become fiscally literate? Where does this fall in my priorities? How important is money to me? And I think that people oftentimes feel a little gross when I say, how important is money to you? No one ever really wants to answer that question because I think they feel like a little bad saying, money's super important to me. I really like money. And there's this weird connotation of greed maybe, or negative feelings around saying money's super important to me. I want to have a lot of money. I want to earn a lot of money. Having a lot of money is important to me. Or saying, you know what? I don't need very much money, But what I do really want to do is make sure that I'm setting my kids up for success. And as a kid who is now an adult, who was raised by parents who did their best, there wasn't like a big launch pad of financial security for me. I had to create that. And I can tell you that had there been that, I could have created even more, just because I would have started out further along. And I think that's the case for everybody. When you have a little head start, if you will, it really is helpful in getting through your education and buying your first property and making your initial investments, all of those things. It's a springboard. And I know that not everybody's in that position, but what if people could be in that position? I am of the belief that there is plenty of money. There's plenty of money to go around. There's plenty of money for people to have adequate funds to be living a really great life. There's also plenty of people who don't want to take an active role in their financial futures. But I know that's not you, because you wouldn't be here listening to this podcast. I believe that this starts in childhood. And I believe this because if we program ourselves subconsciously all throughout our lives with the influences that surround us, and it could be about anything, how we feel about anything, people, religion, politics, even at a really young age, wellness, health, all of those things, they are all part of our belief system, and they start very early on. So if we acknowledge that to be true, and then we acknowledge that these influences in children's lives are what they hear, absorb, feel, think, and eventually act on, then I think we can also agree that it's true that if we have a poor money mindset, if we have a poor relationship with money, if we have a relationship with money that is less than abundance, and we live a life of maybe scarcity, or we live a life of poverty, or we live a life of fear, then guess what? We're teaching that to our children. And our children come up the pike believing certain things to be true when it may just be true for you in that moment, or it may just be a belief that you think is true in that moment that's not actually true. We often put these limitations on ourselves, and they're not based in fact. They're based in thought. They're based in fear. They're based in what we were told. So here's an example. If I would have gone to, I think anyone in my family, honestly, anyone in my family, and I would say, you know what? When I am 25, I'm going to make $250,000. They would have been like, awesome. Not possible, but whatever. You're going to hit the lottery. Like that wouldn't ever have been a reality. If I would say, by the time I'm 40, I will have earned, $1 million a year. They would be like, stop talking. I mean, I think that's great. You can also be the Queen of England. Maybe you could be a race car driver, an Olympian, all the things, but it would be taken in that same vein, right? That same feeling of like, okay. Not that anyone would say you can't do it, but that they would say that it doesn't seem possible because of the limitations that they have on themselves. There's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but when we transfer limitations to our family, to our children, to other people in our lives, then we're doing such an incredible disservice to ourselves and to them. So like I was saying, I believe that these financial conversations have to start early on because they shape who we are as adults and our beliefs as we become adults. And this starts really early when children are tiny and we're telling them, oh, we can't afford that. Oh, we don't have enough money for that. And when they start asking for things, when we say to them like, oh my gosh, what are you thinking? You shouldn't ask for that. We don't have that kind of money. What? We can flip that script. We can change the way we engage in those conversations because what's not possible for us doesn't have to be impossible for them. And we can encourage them to think of ways, you want that amazing house? I want you to have it. I can't wait until you figure out how to earn that money to get there. That is a beautiful place to be coming from. A beautiful, abundant place to be coming from, even if inside you might feel some scarcity. So if we start teaching kids early, which is what I love to do, I mean, honestly, It's kind of what I love to do the most. I love teaching the kids. I also really love working with couples, and I guess I really love working with everybody, but kids, that for me is really fun and it lights me up. I have a little secret. I actually really, really wanted to be a kindergarten teacher for a long time. And when I was in high school, I worked in a kindergarten class. One of my very best friends, Caitlin, her dad was the most inspiring teacher I had ever met. And he really, really encompassed like everything I wanted to be. And I think back at this and working in Mr. Butler's class and how much I loved it. And then getting this reality check. Hey, that's awesome that you want to be a kindergarten teacher, but check it out. How are you going to live this life that you've decided you wanted to live, making this amount of money? I was like, well, shoot. All right. Well, that's not going to work out for me. And I just immediately, with that limitation put on me, I immediately released that dream. And I would have been a great kindergarten teacher. I'm just saying. If you know me, you know this. But then I go, okay, I have this big goal that I'm going to have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house and, all these things. What am I going to do? Well, shoot, I'm going to be a nurse because they make more money. And I get myself into school and I'm like, son of a gun, this is not what I want to do. Bummer. And so by this stroke of good luck, honestly, and by taking action to get to my goals, I ended up in the right room with the right people who showed me a different way. And then I continued to do that, right? So I started working in mortgage and real estate, and then I advanced in that and advanced in that. And then I had my own company, and then I sold a company, and then I had my own company. And then I was like, oh, I need to be in the right room with the right people now, because now I want to educate people on how they can be better with their money. That's my next step. I got to my next peak and my next peak, and I'm always spreading out, looking for how, one, I can learn and grow to get to my next peak. And also, how can I serve all the people I walked with on the hike who might be just a little behind me? How can I reach back and help them? So when Speaking of Money was kind of coming into fruition, and I was working with all these people, and I would write down all their questions, and I'd see all these commonalities, and I would hear the same things over and over and over again. I would document this and document this. I have dozens and dozens of notebooks with questions that people have asked me. And it makes me so joyful to know that now I'm in the position to help people see what is possible for them. And then not only to see what's possible, but how to get there, and then how to reference all of my team of experts in learning what they need to know to take those next steps. So all this to say, that was the beginning of Speaking of Money. That's where we came from. I'm not ever, and I want you to hear this if you hear nothing else. There's never a day I'm going to tell you not to buy a latte. And there is never a day I'm going to BS you on what the rates of return are on certain accounts and do ridiculous math figures to teach you how to be a millionaire. And there's never a day that I'm going to tell you what you can and cannot buy. Today is the day that you can hear me ask you the questions. What are your priorities? And is what you're trying to do in alignment with that? So if your priority is to buy a piece of real estate and save money, and you think to yourself, I really need a new car, and I see that I can get this car for X amount of dollars, and I'm going to have to pay this much per month. How much is that taking away from that goal of buying your first house? You don't need me to tell you whether or not to buy the car. You need you to tell you. You need you to have the tools inside of you to be able to assess that information, do the math, and figure out how far does that set you back in your home buying goal. And when you start to think of things through the lens of what works best for you, and this is the truth with everything you want to accomplish, especially like, think of it like this always comes up for me, the parallel between weight loss or weight and health and money. I don't need to tell you not to eat a whole entire pizza and a cake and drink a bottle of Coke for you to know that that's not in alignment with losing weight. You have to know that. And you have to have the mental security in your knowing, the right mindset in your knowing that that is not in alignment with what you want, and you can say no and choose something different. When it comes to money, I know you really want a new car. You really want a Dolce & Gabbana. You really want some Christian Louboutin. You really want a Louis Vuitton, whatever that is. I really want it. But when you can center yourself and say, well, son of a gun, that does not align with my financial goals, then and only then have we succeeded in teaching you the tools that you need to really live your best financial life. So speaking of money is about all those things, and what the ultimate dream coming to fruition is the podcast to be this kind of reference book. We have a lot of online free content going out on our pages. There are Facebook and Instagram groups. There are articles that are being written and published. There's courses. There are courses, and they are coming, and they're exciting. We teach a lot of live courses, and now those are going to become courses you can do self-paced. There's live coaching. There's one-on-one coaching. There's little boot camps about getting your financial life in order. Like one day, let's do it. Kick your butt. Let's get going. We clean it all out. You walk out and you are ready to roll. There's mindset coaching. There's all these things that are happening, and this is just one small part of it. So I'm excited, to say the least, that you're here. I'm excited that you know where we're going, where we've been, and why we're here. And I'm excited for you to start dreaming about what's possible for not just yourselves, but for your kids. How can we do better in educating our kids? What tools can we give them so we can create that next generation of financially independent and financially free people? And then how right now, what actions can we take as individuals to do the exact same thing? So welcome. Again, I'm thrilled you're here. I can't wait to do this journey with you. And I have some great episodes coming up. So stay tuned. I'm thrilled for you to hear them. Thank you so much for being here. And if you have questions, things you want to know, things you want to talk about, please reach out to me and the team. So I'm at Jana Menina, JanaMannina on all the platforms. And you can leave comments here. You can also go to speakingofmoney.net and you can reach out to us there. But if there's something you're like, I really want to know how to do this, or I don't understand this, or I want to learn the math behind this, or what should I do about that? We will get the people on, we will get the experts on, and we will definitely get those questions answered for you. And we would appreciate that so much. If you like what you're hearing, I'd also love it if you could leave a review. That helps our podcast so much, especially as we get started. So if you could give us 5 stars or however many stars you think we deserve, and you could leave us a review, that would be amazing. Thank you again. See you guys soon. Take care. Bye.